Hey everyone, I'm Teddy from Into the Deep, and today we're going to be looking at 4 of the most twisted cases you've ever heard. Our first case is of Courtney Clenny. When the Miami police arrived at Courtney Clenny's condo in the afternoon, they were met with a gripping scene. Courtney clutching her injured boyfriend, his blood staining her arms. The next day, the headlines in the news flashed. 27-year-old Christian Obumseli was found fatally stabbed to death by his partner, Courtney Clenny. She was arrested in August 2022 on a second-degree murder charge. In the flashy world of Miami, the tale of Courtney Clenny and Christian Obumseli is no less than a gripping movie. Their story was one filled with love, hate, and betrayal, which sadly ended up taking the life of Christian. With an Instagram following of 2 million, a luxurious apartment, and 6 figures made every month, the couple had a picture-perfect life until they didn't. But what exact events transpired before this murder? Was Courtney actually a murderer? If yes, what led her to kill her own boyfriend? Courtney Clenny was a former OnlyFans model and has been an internet sensation for all the wrong reasons. She has been in the talk of the town for almost 2 years after being accused of stabbing her crypto-trading boyfriend, Christian Obumseli, to death. The couple who lived together resided at the One Paraíso Residences, an upscale complex in Miami, occupying a 3-bedroom apartment on the 22nd level, boasting panoramic vistas of Biscayne Bay. But behind the curtains of those perfect Instagram posts and captions that they flaunted, the couple's real-life relationship was far from perfect. Courtney Clenny, known as Courtney Taylor on various social media platforms, including her OnlyFans, and had over 2 million followers on Instagram at the time of the stabbing. This only added fuel to the fire when the authorities ended up arresting the model on charges of murdering her boyfriend. Authorities were under the assumption that the couple was in a toxic and abusive relationship, which spiraled out of control one day.
It was very toxic, and I knew from the beginning that he was not treating her correctly. I saw proof with my own eyes. I heard calls between them, calls to my wife. I heard many things that a father who loves his daughter very deeply should never have to put up with.
With just their initial understanding and evidence, the authorities were certain that Christian was abusive, which led to Courtney stabbing him as a form of self-defense. But in no time were they proven wrong when a vital piece of information was brought to light.
We have new developments in the OnlyFans model murder case against defendant Courtney Clenny. Her parents have now also been arrested in connection with the case. Kim and Deborah Clenny were arrested at their home in Austin, Texas, and taken into custody by Travis County law enforcement on a warrant out of Florida on charges of unauthorized or excessive access to a computer system, or electronic device.
With the information about the involvement of Courtney's parents in the murder, sparks ignited as parents Deborah Clenny and Kim Clenny, aged 57 and 60 respectively, also had a major role to play in the death of Christian. The two were arrested on the grounds of being suspected of tampering with evidence related to the murder. This brings us to the obvious question: what is this evidence we are talking about? According to the new warrants, many of Christian's belongings were taken from the condo after his killing. A point to note here is that Courtney was captured in Hawaii, days after the murder. So the real question is, was this time enough for her to have handed over some crucial evidence like Christian's computer to her parents? Text messages extracted from the family reveal a detailed discussion between them trying to gain access to the computer. The conversation went something like this: "Are there any passwords we can try before you see her tomorrow?" Kim Clenny wrote in one message, according to the warrants. He later determined the PIN was a number and not letters, and the next day wrote, "Hell yeah, that PIN worked." Further, with chats, we discover, "Kim, hold off on going through the computer, please. I don't want to turn you into a witness just yet if you find something useful." The parents and attorneys also discussed potentially shipping the laptop, the warrants added. When it comes to potential evidence, we always have to consider chain of custody issues and don't necessarily want to take the risk that something gets lost in the mail, one attorney messaged. Also, as I'm sure you guessed from my prior text, we don't want you accessing files because the state attorneys could request their own independent analysis of the hard drive and accuse you of creating or modifying files, another attorney messaged. That's why I want to put a quick pause on that. Obviously, I know you would not do that, but we want to maintain that credibility. To this, Kim replied, I had barely opened it and was starting to poke around, but we started a video call, so I stopped. I never opened a file, so I didn't see anything. While all this was happening, Courtney's parents were bailed out of Miami-Dade's jail. When they were released, the couple was welcomed with paparazzi and journalists flashing them with questions from all directions. An ultimate news conference was held with their lawyer to denounce the charges against them. We're extremely surprised and very concerned about the arrest of the Clenny family. This could be an example of prosecutorial overreach and misconduct. It appears excessive in that the family is now confined in jail, awaiting an extradition hearing on what may be an attempt to manipulate media headlines and discredit them before Thursday's scheduled hearing on a gag order in the case. We believe the Clenny family has been targeted with some trumped-up charges to discredit them in the press and make their lives miserable. The actions taken in this case, as far as the arrest of the parents of Courtney Clenny and the new charges against Courtney Clenny, are incredibly troubling, said attorney Jude Faccidomo. But it doesn't end there. The attorney goes on to state that the arrest warrant itself is absurd. The arrest warrant in this case is incredibly troubling and frankly never should have been issued. There is not a crime here. The Clennys have not committed a crime, Faccidomo said, as the police collected evidence from Clenny's apartment. According to the attorney, the access to the computer was part of the defense of Courtney Clenny and was an authorized access, and it does not fall within the parameters of the statute that they charge. I think what you will ultimately see as this case is litigated is that this statute was something they pulled out of thin air and does not apply to the facts of this case. Furthermore, the evidence doesn't even stand strong, as the laptop was shared by both Courtney and Christian, which meant that she had every right to use it. But if that was the case, why couldn't Courtney remember the PIN to her own laptop? One logical explanation that Faccidomo pointed out is that it's common these days for people to have multiple passcodes for their phones and computers. Since Courtney has been in jail for more than a year, it's not surprising that she couldn't recall what it was. He implied that the arrest warrant sounds as though the Clennys were trying to hack into the computer or something, which is so not the case. It's presented in a way to suggest that this was some sort of hack of this computer. This was easily accessed by a 4-digit code that Courtney knew. This was in her home that she shared with the decedent, Faccidomo said. With the involvement of Courtney's parents in tampering with the evidence being proven as false by all means, the next question that the investigators had to tackle was the real reasoning behind the murder of Christian Obumseli. When questioned about why and how she killed her boyfriend, Courtney admitted to causing the death of Christian, but claimed it was in self-defense. Courtney previously informed investigators that Christian had shoved her and forcefully knocked her to the ground, leading her to react by grabbing a knife and hurling it at Christian from approximately 10 feet away. But an important part of the investigation by the coroner who conducted Christian's autopsy stated that his injury could not have been inflicted by a knife thrown from that distance, which led to two possibilities. Either Courtney is lying about the story that resulted in her stabbing Christian, or worse, the entire narrative that Christian was abusive was a lie, and his death was a well-planned murder. However, Courtney's legal counsel previously revealed that the pair had a tumultuous relationship and that Christian was consistently abusive. Courtney's parents had also revealed about an instance which was almost unbelievable to many. Their daughter informed them that Christian once choked her until she began to lose consciousness, and a frightening idea crossed her mind. Oh my gosh, my mom's going to have to plan my funeral. The Hawaii County Police Department and the U.S. Marshals Service apprehended Clenny following the issuance of an arrest warrant by the Miami-Dade County Police Department. EVN, the Miami law enforcement officers, responded to an incident of domestic violence involving a stabbing on the evening of April 3rd. Upon arrival, officers discovered a man, later identified as Christian Obumseli, with a knife injury, while Courtney Clenny was found cradling him. He was transported to a nearby hospital where he succumbed to his injuries, as per authorities. But what catches attention is that at the moment of Courtney's apprehension, prosecutors asserted that Christian had been subjected to domestic violence, presenting elevator security footage from an incident several months prior to his demise. The footage depicted Courtney striking him repeatedly as he attempted to fend off her attacks. Additionally, prosecutors noted that both security personnel and building staff had recorded numerous loud altercations between the pair, to the extent that eviction proceedings were underway against them. Not only this, another video had surfaced recently that fuels the fact of how downhill the relationship had gotten.
I touched her breast
Do you see
yesterday.
how instigative he is?
No, you're telling me I touched her breast yesterday when I
You didn't. I didn't say you touched it.
You said I did.
You were leaning. Yo, you were dumb as I actually don't agree with you. Actually, I'm done.
Okay.
Can you send him home?
Yeah.
Actually, I'm done.
Okay, fine.
Done. Done.
From all the evidence, the authorities realized that it was pretty evident that both Christian and Courtney were abusive in the relationship and were equally participating in the abuse. But to oppose this, Frank Prieto, Courtney attorney, said Christian was actually the abuser and added that the video evidence presented by prosecutors does not depict the events leading up to what was captured in the elevator. He would manipulate and abuse Courtney in private when he thought nobody was around, Prieto said. In a surprising body cam footage released by TMZ, Courtney was explaining to the authorities the reason why she abused her boyfriend Christian in the elevator. Take a look.
So when he's following me around this dog park, I said, there is no, your time is up. Like, that's it. And then all of a sudden, like, he followed me to the elevator, and I said, don't fall. This guy said, I shoved her. When I was upstairs, and then they showed up on my door, I said, I shoved him. I said, show me the fucking video. Like, I really got angry because that did not happen. All I did was get my dogs there. I feel like I am being like.
Nevertheless, Michael Haggard, who is advocating for Obumseli's estate in the civil lawsuit, informed BuzzFeed News that Courtney Clenny was in fact the instigator. Typically, we associate domestic violence with the opposite scenario, but this is a situation where, as evidenced by all police reports, testimonies from neighbors, and conversations with tenants, it's clear that the woman was the one initiating aggression, Haggard stated. He further stated that building personnel and security had been informed about the purported abuse preceding Christian Obumseli's demise, but took no action. He noted that police had been called on at least 8 occasions due to disturbances involving the couple. Courtney Clenny ought to have been expelled before the situation escalated, he emphasized. She posed a threat not just to her partner, but also to the other residents in the building, he added. He goes on to say, if she had a gun of some sort, she might not only shoot him but shoot other people. So they had a duty there. They violated the duty. They failed every security standard known to man, he said. When you have a problematic tenant over multiple times, you've got to do something about it, and they failed to do it. But one question remains unanswered. What was it that exactly transpired on the fateful afternoon of April 3rd before the death of Christian Obumseli? Well, this is what we found out. Records examined by investigators indicated that Christian left around 1:15 p.m. and returned to his residence at 4:32 p.m. carrying sandwiches from Subway. While this was happening, Courtney was concluding an Instagram video, posting just before Christian arrived. She phoned him at 4:01 p.m. and again at 4:33 p.m., shortly before his return. Deborah informed authorities in a recorded statement that she conversed with her daughter on the phone twice between 4:43 p.m. and 4:56 p.m. She recounted hearing Courtney shouting at Christian to leave and accusing him of deceit, but she didn't disclose any details about an assault. Investigators deduced, per the affidavit, that Christian was stabbed within that 13-minute time frame. At 4:57 p.m., Courtney dialed 911. Per the affidavit, she uttered, "I'm so sorry, baby," during the call, while a man's voice in the background expressed an inability to feel his arm and conveyed a sense of dying. Simultaneously, residents had alerted building security about a disturbance, prompting security to call 911 at 4:46 p.m. Courtney informed police that Christian had forcefully pushed her against the wall by the neck and then threw her to the ground. Upon getting up, she claimed, she seized a kitchen knife and hurled it at him from a distance of at least 10 feet, striking his chest. Observing that she provided law enforcement with multiple inconsistent versions of events, the arrest affidavit notes that Courtney also admitted to police, "I really don't know if this was justified at all." Investigators also highlighted the absence of injuries on Courtney, which could have been proof of being attacked. When the news of the death of her boyfriend due to her stabbing was presented to Courtney, this is how she reached.
Oh my God. This is not real, right? Okay. No, there's no fucking way.
Her reaction to Christian's death was mocked by many. Courtney was seen in shock, crying throughout the interrogation. A majority came forward claiming that she was bluffing and faking her emotions to deceive the authorities. Or maybe was she unaware of the damage she inflicted? Chio Obumseli, the father of Christian Obumseli, filed the lawsuit in Miami-Dade County Court. He also listed the owners of the building where the stabbing happened, the two property management companies, and the building security company as defendants. The prosecution claimed in prior court submissions that Courtney accrued over $3 million from OnlyFans between 2020 and last August. More recently, the state asserted she had earned $900,000 in 2020 and over $1.8 million in 2021. Christian's father filed a lawsuit on behalf of his son's estate, seeking compensation exceeding $50,000. This includes damages for pain and suffering, past and future loss of arrangements, the deceased's potential earnings, and the inheritable estate. However, the defendant's father testified that her total worth was significantly less. Kim Clenny previously informed Judge Cruz that his daughter possesses approximately $11,000 in assets presently, alongside $375,000 in home equity. Courtney has remained in pretrial custody since August 2022, following her arrest and indictment for Christian's murder stemming from the April 2022 stabbing incident. Judge Laura Sharon Cruz refused to grant a bond to the defendant after a bond hearing in November 2022. Watch her reaction when she was denied a bond. In the dramatic courtroom judgment surrounding Christian Obumseli's tragic demise, the state strives for a legal guidance in seeking a gag order to shield a potential jury pool from outside influences like a TMZ documentary that was released recently. Surprisingly, while Christian Obumseli's family attorney overlooked participation requests, members of Clenny's legal team eagerly engaged. Adding to the intrigue, Clenny's parents, Kim and Deborah, now find themselves in legal madness, where they were arrested in Texas on felony charges of the computer impropriety, which we mentioned earlier. Courtney Clenny, not to be outdone, faces a fresh felony charge as well tied to computer impropriety. As of now, the trial dates are not set, but prosecutors are working hard to craft a compelling narrative where they are about to present their case to a future jury where the death of Christian Obumseli will not be a tale of self-defense, but one of second-degree murder. The story of Courtney and Christian is a sad one that underscores the harsh realities of romantic relationships. While the saying goes, "All is fair in love and war," the legal context reveals that not everything holds true when it comes to matters of the heart under the law. The next case we will be looking at is the tragic case of Aisling Murphy. Who could imagine that a bustling public place, a common ground for leisurely activities, could turn into a crime scene in broad daylight? On January 12, 2022, Aisling Murphy, a talented and vivacious primary school teacher, went out for a jog when she was struck with an untimely tragedy. Aisling was born on July 6, 1998, in Blue Ball, near Tullamore in Ireland. Her parents were Kathleen and Raymond. Aisling was the youngest of 3 siblings and had an older sister named Kathleen and a brother named Cathal. Growing up, Aisling had the privilege of being surrounded by music, as her parents used to play traditional Irish music. This fostered a deep love for music in young Aisling. She used to love playing for her family on the weekends. She honed her musical talents in school while studying at the Sacred Heart Secondary School. She was part of the youth choir and the senior orchestra. It was during school when she met her longtime boyfriend, Ryan Casey, at the young age of 14. They dated for some time but broke up a few months later as they were simply too young for a serious relationship. However, both of them knew that what they had was really special and decided to get back together in their late teens. After finishing high school, Aisling went to Mary Immaculate College for her bachelor's. She completed her studies in 2021 around the age of 22. Shortly afterwards, she got accepted as a primary school teacher for the Douro National School. It was in this job that Aisling got to maximize her musical talent, combining it with her love for education.
A selection of tunes for you. First, we're going to play a hornpipe called Xena Warrior Princess Hornpipe.
Aisling Murphy with her sister Amy from a tiny place called Blue Ball outside Tullamore in the Irish Midlands. Here, doing what she loved, introducing others to Irish music.
She was described as a dedicated, energetic, and hardworking teacher, pouring herself into the well-being of her students. While being an exemplary teacher at such a young age, she also managed to make time for her fitness. She was really into exercising and enjoyed doing it outdoors when the weather was pleasant. It was during one of these very days when Ashley decided to wrap up work and head out for exercise. The weather was sunny with no sign of rain, which made it a perfect day to jog around the Grand Canal. This was a popular destination for leisurely activities and was usually busy with many joggers and walkers. It wasn't like Aisling chose a bad time in the evening or a deserted track to jog on. The Grand Canal was the perfect destination. The question is, how could such a tragic incident happen in front of so many people in broad daylight? It was after 2 p.m. when Aisling left the school and went to the Grand Canal. She was jogging along a pathway called Fiona's Way, which was ironically named after a missing woman, Fiona Pender. She was wearing a Fitbit while exercising, which gave authorities an accurate description of her location and heart rate. She started her run at approximately 2:51 p.m. For about 20 minutes, her heart rate was consistently rising with the nature of her exercise, but around 3:21 p.m., it started showing irregular fluctuations. It was around this time that 2 women witnessed a young girl getting attacked by a man. Since none of them had their cell phones on them, they ran to a nearby resident's house to inform the police. When the police got there, they found Aisling's body lying beside the track, covered in blood. First responders tried CPR to revive her, but sadly she had already passed away. She had sustained in total 11 wounds to her neck, due to which she bled out, suffering a cardiac arrest resulting in instant death. According to the Fitbit, it was at 3:31 p.m. when her heart stopped beating. The stabbing had severed Aisling's voice box, which is why she couldn't shout for help. She also suffered multiple lacerations to her hands and fingers, suggesting that she tried to defend herself, which would have injured her attacker. Police also found DNA under her fingernails, which meant that her attacker could be identified. But unfortunately, it didn't match anyone in the database. This suggested that the person who committed the crime could be a first-time offender. Based on eyewitness accounts, police arrested a 40-year-old man on suspicion. He matched the description of the attacker, but shortly after investigation, he was eliminated as a suspect. However, one key piece of evidence was the bicycle found next to Aisling's body. According to witness accounts, a man was seen cycling behind her. But it was obvious that Aisling wasn't familiar with him. That cycle matched the description of the one found at the scene of the crime, which provided police with their biggest lead. With this in mind, police started searching through CCTV camera footage around that area. They were looking for any sign of the man on the bike. After combing through hours of footage, police found a suspicious man riding on a bike around Tullamore in the early afternoon. The bike that he was riding matched the one that was found at the crime scene. The man was wearing a black sweatshirt with black and white pants. Around 1 p.m. that man was seen following a woman around Tullamore. The same man was again caught on CCTV cameras around 8:55 p.m. riding the same bike. Based on his behavior and description, the police were clear that this was the man who had attacked Aisling. But because of the grainy footage, they couldn't clearly identify him. Soon the police found another lead. On January 13th, they were alerted about a man who had been admitted to St. James Hospital in Dublin. This man was 31-year-old Josef Puska, hailing from Slovakia. Josef Puska is of Roma Gypsy descent and grew up in a small village named Luchivnia in Slovakia. At the age of 16, he left school and started working on construction sites. After some time, he moved to the Czech Republic and eventually came to Dublin, Ireland, with his children and wife, Lucia. In 2015, he had moved to Tullamore and had given up work due to a work-related injury. By the time of the investigation, he had 5 kids and was living on disability checks. According to those who knew him, Puska was described as a disrespectful man who routinely had violent outbursts. Coming back to the present investigation, Puska very looked similar to the man on the CCTV. He had been stabbed in the stomach and had scratches all over him. With the help of an interpreter, the police asked him about the cause of his injuries. Puska stated that he was attacked by 2 men when he was in Blanchardstown on January 12th. He said that he had gone to Blanchardstown on January 11th, and the very next day he was attacked by 2 men. When asked why he went to Blanchardstown, he said that he had gone to visit his parents' apartment. The police started suspecting him and began investigating his story. 1 day later, the police paid him a visit again. This time, Puska gave a different story. He said that he had gone to Blanchardstown to visit a woman. Police asked Joseph if his wife was aware of the fact that he was meeting another woman, to which he responded, no. Then the police asked him if he had a bike. Joseph replied yes, but said that it had been stolen about 2 weeks ago. When the police asked him if he had reported the theft of his bicycle, he said no. At this point, police started seriously suspecting him. Joseph became nervous, and it was exactly at this time that Joseph blurted out his confession. He requested the interpreter to relay everything to the police. Puska confessed that he did it, that he killed Aisling. However, he said that he did not do it intentionally and didn't want to do it. He said that he was sorry, and he had never seen Aisling before. He said that he used the knife that he kept for his bike chains, and as he passed Aisling, he stabbed her. He said that he panicked and began stabbing her again and again. Then he pointed towards his stomach and said that he stabbed himself to provide a cover-up story of being attacked by random men. After this, Joseph was worried and asked if he would get 10 years in prison. He was also concerned for his family's well-being, but the police assured him that he need not worry. By this time, police had gathered enough evidence to issue a warrant against Puska and seized his belongings. Upon his release from the hospital on January 18th, Puska was immediately arrested. The final piece of evidence that nailed the coffin was that Puska was a perfect match for the DNA found under Aisling's fingernails. The trial started in October of 2023, postponed from the original date, June 2023. There was a mountain of evidence against Puska, including the CCTV camera footage and the eyewitness accounts. During the trial, police came across another witness. This witness was a family friend of Joseph and was with him on the day of the crime. He said that Josef knocked on his door late at night on January 12th. Puska was quite injured, had scratches all over his face, and requested that he be dropped home. When the friend inquired what happened, Puska blew him off by saying that he was in a fight, but didn't explain why or with whom. Puska refused to give any further details and said that he would explain things later. The friend then dropped him at his residence and left. During the trial, police asked the witness why he didn't come to the authorities with this information. Puskas's friend said that at the time, hate crimes against Romanians were becoming common. Hence, the friend assumed that Puska had been the victim of a hate crime. This provided the court with more evidence criminalizing Josef Puska. It seemed as if the case was finally solved, but there came another twist. Josef Puska changed his story yet again. This time, he blew it out of proportion. He tried presenting himself as a good person by claiming that he had tried to help Aisling, but became a victim of the same man who killed her. He redacted his previous confession, stating that he was undergoing surgery in the hospital for whom he was given morphine. After the surgery ended, he was given oxycodone, because of which he wasn't in the right state of mind. Puska said that he was under duress and confused the details of the crime. However, the jury did not believe his story, as all the evidence was stacked against him. After 3 hours of deliberation, the jury passed the final verdict as guilty and was given life in prison. Josef's wife and 2 brothers were also charged for withholding information regarding the murder. And the tragic case of Aisling Murphy was finally put to rest.
Aisling was a vibrant, intelligent and highly motivated young woman who embodied so many great traits and qualities of the Irish people and its communities.
Following her death, many vigils were held in remembrance of a young woman who had her whole life in front of her. Several of her students paid tribute at the funeral of their beloved teacher.
In their school uniforms, they're too young for this. To say goodbye to them.
The funeral was also attended by the Irish president. A park bench was commemorated in remembrance at the Grand Canal, close to the place where she lost her life. Aisling's untimely passing will forever be remembered alongside thousands of women who have lost their lives to violent crimes. The next case we will be looking at is the sinister case of Abby Choi. Abby Choi belonged to one of the most influential and affluent families in Hong Kong. She was a popular socialite and model boasting more than 100,000 followers on her Instagram. Abby was born in 1994 into a wealthy family. Her father was an uber-rich businessman. Her family had a well-established construction business with ties all over China. Her family included her parents and 2 younger sisters. However, Abby's influence did not just stem from her family background. She had an amazing real estate portfolio of her own. She had numerous properties and invested in luxury watches and designer bags as well. This helped her garner a net worth of 100 million Hong Kong dollars. She had an impeccable sense of style and attended many fashion events all over the world. She was basically Chinese royalty. Abby was well renowned in the world of fashion and was featured in many prestigious publications like Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, and Elle. But Abby wasn't just some pretentious influencer. She was known as a very down-to-earth and kind person. She was polite, well-spoken, and treated everyone with great respect. She was really humble and had a great love for animals. It seems as if there was nothing that this woman couldn't do, except maybe one thing: protecting herself from people with malicious intent. Abby was married to her long-term boyfriend, Chris Tam, with whom she had 2 kids. They had known each other as young school kids, but drifted apart as they grew older. After Abby's divorce from Alex, they began forming a relationship. Although their marriage wasn't legally registered, their love and commitment to each other could be witnessed by all friends and family. The pair had a celebratory wedding in 2016, after which their bond grew even stronger. Chris belonged to an equally influential background, if not more. Chris's father, Tam Chap Kwan, was the founder of the Tam Jai Yunnan Mixi and Eatery chain. Chris's family reportedly has a net worth of $500 million. Both their families had high regard and respect for each other. But as seen here, Abby has 4 children instead of just 2. That's right, Abby had 2 children from a previous marriage. Abby Choi married really young at the age of 18. She married Alex Kwong, her high school sweetheart, who was also 18 at the time. While Abby's parents were slightly concerned that she was too young for marriage, Alex's parents had no worries. They saw this as an opportunity to scale up their social status. This is because Alex's family was fairly middle class and did not have much social influence. But Abby didn't care about the difference in social classes. She just married for love. The couple had 2 children. However, the marriage was short-lived as the young couple split up after 3 years when they were just 21. They parted ways officially in 2015. Alex and Abby shared 2 children, so in total Abby had 4 kids between the ages of 3 and 10. Despite her divorce, Abby maintained close relations with her ex-in-laws. Abby created a very healthy family dynamic between both families. She would routinely plan family outings with all the kids, often going to Disneyland, trips on their yacht, and other recreational activities. Even Chris extended his fatherly love to Abby and Alex's children, promising to ensure their well-being. Her ex-husband's family consisted of 4 people: Alex, the ex-husband, his brother Anthony Kwong, their father Kwong Kao, and mother Jenny Lee. Kwong Kao was an ex-police officer who was now unemployed. He tried to sign up for many jobs but couldn't stick to any of them. He had previously served as a sheriff for the police department. He was let off from the police force due to multiple offenses. One of these alleged offenses happened back in 2005. In 2005, a young woman came to the police department to report a crime. Sheriff Kwong took the frazzled woman under his wing and vowed to deliver her justice. But Sheriff Kwong instead did the opposite. It is alleged that he took advantage of the woman's trust and raped her at her residence. This is how Kwong Kao lost his position as the sheriff and became jobless. He did not like the other jobs that he applied for, as they didn't provide him with the authority that the police department did. Since none of the Kwong family members had any means of supporting themselves, the responsibility landed on Abby's shoulders. Abby, being the kind person she was, hired her ex-brother-in-law Anthony as her driver. She paid him a handsome amount as she was perfectly aware of their financial conditions. Anthony would routinely post selfies with her on his Instagram, acting like a courteous brother and sister. This showed how cordial and pleasant their relationship was. But she wasn't just nice to her ex-in-laws, she became their godmother and did more than just support them financially. She went as far as paying for their extravagant lifestyle. The Kwong family began to leech off Abby's finances. But she didn't just stop there. Abby bought a luxury property in Kadoorie Hill in Tai Po, which is a suburb of Hong Kong. This was bought so that her ex-husband's family could comfortably live in it. This was worth a whopping $10 million. Although it was Abby who bought the property, it was in her ex-father-in-law Kwong Kao's name. This was done in order to avoid some taxes. Despite her busy schedule, Abby always made the time to be the best possible mother to her kids. She'd make it a priority to always pick up her kids from school. On February 21st, she was on the way to pick up her kids from school when she failed to show up. According to the authorities, she was last seen at her residence on Tuesday, February 21st, 2023, before she went missing. She, along with her driver Anthony Kwong, went to pick up her kids from school when she went missing along the way. When her friends and family noticed her absence, they immediately alerted the police. When the Hong Kong police were notified, they launched a thorough investigation. Over 150 detectives were appointed by the police to investigate the case. Police tracked the GPS location of Abby's 7-seater car, which was driven by her driver and ex-brother-in-law. From the GPS, they could pinpoint a location in Tai Po. It was here that the police found the location of the crime. Upon research, police also realized that Abby was having financial disputes with her ex-husband's family involving millions of Hong Kong dollars. It is said that Abby wanted to sell the property where they were living and wanted to shift them elsewhere. It wasn't like she was kicking them out. She just wanted to relocate them to another place. This possibly led to some tensions amongst them, as realtors would come to visit the location quite often. The Kwong family was displeased with the way Abby was handling her assets. The police picked this as a sign that they could have been involved in her disappearance. So, 3 days after she went missing, police got a warrant to search a property rented by the Kwong family. Here they made some horrible discoveries. First, police found Abby's headless body. Some body parts were placed inside a refrigerator. The most gruesome detail is the fact that the murderers had cooked some parts of her body. Abby's head was found in a pot of soup underneath some radishes and carrots. Her ribs were also inside a cooking pot. Police found a list of horrifying murder weapons, including an electric saw and meat grinder, at the scene. It was apparent that the murder was planned and premeditated due to the presence of gloves, masks, and raincoats at the scene. Police found female legs inside a refrigerator, which was then taken into custody. Abby's ID, credit cards, and other personal items were found. They also found human tissue cooking in a pot of soup. On March 6th, investigators confirmed that all body parts belonged to Abby Choi. A 6.5-inch hole was found in the backside of Abby's head. Authorities suggest that this might have been the fatal blow that resulted in her death. However, her hands and torso were found to be missing. Police found a nearby landfill where they thought the missing body parts could have been disposed of. More than 120 officers wore protective clothing and combed through the landfill. However, they found no remains of Abby. They foraged through an area which was the size of a football pitch and was 5 meters deep. They also did door-to-door questioning in order to gain more information. They even searched a nearby cemetery and sewage. Police
兇徒咧曾經喺22號嘅早上咧抌咗幾袋嘅重要證物，可能係啲人體殘骸，亦都係有機會係啲受害者嘅衫同埋電話甚至乎以至空氣等等咁所以我哋今日
Police immediately arrested all 4 members of the Kwong family. Alex, his brother Anthony, and their father Kwong Kao were arrested on charges of murder, while the mother Jenny Lee was charged with preventing the course of justice. Alex tried to escape the authorities by attempting to flee to China via a speedboat, but fortunately, he failed. He faced additional charges related to thefts he had committed between 2013 and 2015. All 4 of them were detained without bail by the Kowloon City Magistrates Court. Police arrested 3 more people in the murder case. The court was adjourned to May 8th for further proceedings. On the 8th of May, the prosecutors mentioned that they needed more time to examine 30 more items that were at the crime scene. These included various kitchenware items, hammers, and knives that were used to dismember Abby's body. The Kwong family's lawyer complained that the investigators were slow in compiling forensic reports. The trial was then adjourned to October 11th. The culprits received an extra charge of preventing the lawful burial of a body, as they had dismembered and cooked her remains. All of Hong Kong was shrouded in disbelief and horror over this horrific crime. Abby was a kind and caring soul, brutally torn from this world in an untimely and barbaric manner.
Abby 21號失蹤，阿 Chris 一直都冇同我哋講。因為其實我哋約咗食飯嘅，本來嗰幾日咁，但係因為例如約咗食飯，突然間見到冇聲氣，咁我哋又唔會追。唔係，跟住之後我哋都有幫，我哋嗰時係未知道 Abby 已經過咗身嘅。
A few months before her death, she opened a welfare organization along with her friends. The shelter, called Palmas Charitable Organization, aimed at helping stray animals, was generously funded by Abby herself. There's a famous instance of Abby saving a severely injured cat that had been hit by a car and was dying on the side of the road. Abby graciously helped the cat back to recovery. This is how she was, always looking after others, exceeding in generosity and genuinely selfless. Her funeral was held on June 18th in Po Fook Memorial Hall. The funeral was pink-themed in honor of her favorite color. Amongst friends and family were hundreds of mourners who showed up to pay their respects to the kind soul that Abby was. This is how her family chooses to remember her. Her husband showed up with one of their children. He expressed his commitment to caring for all 4 of Abby's children. Chris chose to remember Abby as the devoted mother and loving wife whom he adored. Chris's father regarded Abby as his beloved daughter-in-law. Abby's mother remembered her firstborn daughter, the one who took care of everyone and was loved by everyone. Supporters over the internet also expressed their outrage at the fact that the Kwongs had done the worst to Abby when she had done nothing but be kind to them. The impact of Abby's death, especially the heinous intentions that stole her from this world, was felt around the globe. At the end of the ceremony, Abby was finally put to rest when her remains were cremated. Her influence can be felt by the outpour of love and support that is evident at her funeral. This was the last remembrance of a life cut too short, too brutally. The last case we will be looking at today is the twisted case of the Beauty Queen Killer, 1984, a time when many young women dreamed of becoming models, envisioning themselves striding confidently down runways and gracing the pages of Vogue like Cindy Crawford did. But their dreams turn into a chilling nightmare when they fall into the clutches of a man who seemed to promise them stardom, only to lead them into darkness. This sinister tale is known as the Beauty Queen Killer, a story of a dozen confirmed victims, and maybe even more, whose fates remain a mystery, all at the hands of Christopher Wilder.
At the public's attention. But in 1984, some aspiring models began attracting publicity in a terrible new way. Across the country, dreams of glamour turned nightmarish as young women disappeared, only to be found tortured and killed. I'm Jim Kallstrom, former head of the FBI's New York office. When a suspect emerged, the FBI's 10 most wanted list became the tool we used to try to flush him out.
To begin with, Christopher Wilder was all about speed, and I mean racing speed. He loved the high life, enjoying fancy cars and all the luxuries. He was the type of man who could easily sweep beautiful young women off their feet with his flashy rides, fancy cameras, and, well, not so truthful talk. He had this double-sided nature that left people shocked when they learned of the awful things he'd done. Now brace yourself, because what he did was downright chilling. This guy not only sexually assaulted about a dozen people, but was also suspected to have done away with another 20 victims. If you're feeling a bit queasy today, you might want to skip this story, because it's one of the darkest tales of a serial killer you'll come across. But if you're feeling brave, let's rewind the clock and delve into where it all began for him, back to his early days. Born in 1945 to an American naval officer and an Australian woman, Christopher Wilder had a rough start in life. He struggled with health problems from the get-go, barely making it through birth, and then narrowly escaping drowning in a pool at the tender age of 2. These early struggles set the stage for what was to come in his life. At the young age of 17, Christopher's behavior was already raising red flags, with reports of him engaging in disturbing activities like stalking and even participating in a gang rape incident on a Sydney beach. Shockingly, the justice system failed to deliver proper consequences for his actions. Instead of facing significant punishment, he received just 1 year of probation. To make matters worse, he even underwent electroshock therapy, which some believe may have worsened his behavior rather than curbing it. It is also well known that this guy had practically learned word for word the story from the book The Collector by John Fowles, written in 1963. This book is about a man who keeps a woman trapped in his basement until she dies. So by the age of 23, Christopher had already tied the knot, but his marriage was short-lived. Apparently, his wife left him after he was questioned about sexual assaults at Manly Beach. After their split, his ex-wife revealed shocking details to the police. She accused him of trying to seduce both her mother and sister, and of finding inappropriate pictures in his car. She also bravely admitted that he had attempted to kill her not once, but twice, all within the span of 1 week. In November 1969, Christopher's behavior took a darker turn. He used nude photos to manipulate an Australian student nurse into doing something she didn't want to do. She reported him to the police, but the case fell apart when she chose not to testify. At this point, Christopher's name was pretty much mud in his hometown, so he decided to make a fresh start in the United States that same year, settling down in Boynton Beach, Florida. There, he made it big in real estate, living in a fancy house near Palm Beach. By this time, Christopher had a hefty sum of money to play with, and that's when his need for speed kicked in. He got himself a fancy Porsche 911 and started racing it around for fun. He didn't stop there, though. He also raced speedboats, always seeking that adrenaline rush. It was pretty obvious he had a craving for excitement and thrills, and racing was his go-to fix. But you know how it goes. Sometimes even that's not enough. He also got into photography, especially at racetracks. But here's the twist. He wasn't just there to snap pics of drivers. Nope, he had another motive to attract unsuspecting women and victims. During the years from 1971 to 1975, Christopher was accused of raping a young woman whom he had deceived into getting into his truck by promising her a chance at a modeling shoot. Unfortunately, this awful behavior would repeat itself in his later criminal activities. Thanks to his parents' help, Christopher didn't go to jail for any of these offenses. Without consequences, Christopher's actions only became worse. In 1983, while visiting his parents in Sydney, he abducted two 15-year-old girls, forced them to get naked, and took pornographic photos of them. Obviously, he was arrested and charged with kidnapping and sexual assault. However, the case was delayed multiple times. And by the time he was finally scheduled to appear in court, he was safely out of reach back in the United States. The following year, he abducted two girls who were barely aged 10 and 12 at gunpoint in Florida. He forced them to fellate him in a remote area, but Wilder managed to evade arrest for this crime as well. And it wasn't until much later that he was identified as their attacker. Now, what you've just heard is truly heartbreaking, but brace yourself, because what's coming next is seriously unsettling. Christopher Wilder wasn't slowing down one bit in his violent spree. While thankfully he hadn't killed any young girls he'd come across at this point, it didn't stay that way for long. It started with one victim, then two, and it spiraled from there. The first victim believed to be linked to Wilder was a young woman named Rosario Teresa Gonzalez, just 20 years old. Remember when he was deeply involved in the racing scene? Well, it was February 26, 1984, when Teresa was working as a spokesmodel at the Miami Grand Prix, handing out aspirin samples for a drug company. After that race, she vanished without a trace. She was never seen again after that event. Friends and various witnesses suggest that Wilder lured her in by playing on her dreams, not just of being a driver, but also of becoming famous, a model visible across the country. He promised her photo shoots that could launch her career. According to witnesses, she left the racetrack with him in the early afternoon. About a week later, she was still missing. About 2 weeks after Teresa's disappearance, another woman vanished. Elizabeth Ann Kenyon, a finalist in the Miss Florida competition and Wilder's former girlfriend, disappeared at the age of 23. Their relationship was complicated. Despite Wilder proposing, Elizabeth declined due to their age gap. It's uncertain if this rejection triggered him, but what we do know is that Elizabeth was last seen with Wilder at a gas station near Miami. 6 days later, her car was discovered abandoned at Miami Airport. What's truly startling is that both Teresa and Elizabeth had competed in the same Miss Florida pageant. Sadly, neither of these women has ever been found. Their whereabouts remains a mystery to this day. On March 18th, just a week after his previous killing, Christopher Wilder lured 21-year-old Teresa Ann Ferguson away from Merritt Square Mall in Merritt Island, Florida. He murdered Ferguson and left her body at Canaveral Groves, where it was discovered on March 23rd. Wilder's next victim was 19-year-old Linda Grover from Florida State University. He kidnapped her from Governor's Square Mall in Tallahassee, Florida, on March 20th. Linda had refused his offer to take photos of her for a modeling agency, so he attacked her in the mall parking lot. Wilder tied Linda up, covered her with a blanket, and stuffed her in the trunk of his car. He took her to Glen Oaks Motel, where he raped her, blinded her with a blow dryer and super glue, and applied copper wires to her feet, passing electric current through them. Now, this is where things get chilling. Many suspect that Wilder's use of electroshock therapy on his victims was influenced by his own experiences with it. When Linda tried to escape, he would beat her, but she managed to get away, locking herself in the bathroom and banging on the walls for help. This was the moment Wilder fled in his car, taking all of Linda's belongings with him. Luckily, Linda's escape meant she could identify her attacker from photos shown to her by the police. Meanwhile, Christopher Wilder fled the state, leaving behind a trail of terror. On March 21st, Wilder approached Terry Diane Walden, using his usual tactic of posing as a model recruiter. Terry, a 23-year-old wife, mother, and nursing student at Lamar University in Beaumont, Texas, rejected his offer. However, fate brought them together again 2 days later, on March 23rd, when Wilder kidnapped her. Tragically, he assaulted and fatally stabbed her, leaving her body in a canal where she was discovered on March 26th. With Terry's car as his getaway vehicle, Wilder continued his rampage. The very next day, March 25th, Wilder targeted 21-year-old Suzanne Wendy Logan at Penn Square Mall in Oklahoma City. He abducted her and drove her 180 miles north to Newton, Kansas, where he checked into a motel. The following morning, he took her to Milford Reservoir, where he brutally murdered her and concealed her body under a cedar tree. But Wilder's spree didn't end there. On March 29th, he abducted 18-year-old Cheryl Lynn Bonaventura in Grand Junction, Colorado. Witnesses spotted them together at a diner in Silverton, where they claimed they were headed to Las Vegas via Durango. Their journey took them to the Four Corners Monument on March 30th, and Wilder later checked into a motel in Page, Arizona. Tragically, he shot and stabbed Cheryl to death near the Kanab River in Utah around March 31st, though her body wasn't discovered until May 3rd. On April 1st, a chilling chapter unfolded in Christopher Wilder's spree of terror. That very day, he disguised as a professional photographer at a fashion show in Las Vegas, where young models hoped for a chance to grace the cover of 17 magazine. As cameras flashed and dreams shimmered, Wilder, like a wolf among sheep, was captured in the background of a photograph, his eyes fixed on 17-year-old model Michelle Korfman, her innocence draped in a miniskirt. When the show ended, the beauty queen killer approached Michelle, and they vanished into the night. It was the last time anyone saw her alive. Over a month later, her badly decomposing body was discovered in California's Angeles National Forest, a grim testament to Wilder's brutality. An autopsy revealed she had succumbed to asphyxia, her airways blocked by soil forced into her throat. With each heinous act, Wilder's web of crimes tightened. With authorities hot on his tail, the FBI marked him as one of America's 10 most wanted on April 3rd, signaling a desperate race to end his reign of terror. The very next day, near Torrance, California, Christopher Wilder photographed 16-year-old Tina Marie Risico before forcefully abducting her. He then drove her to El Centro, where he subjected her to a brutal assault. Surprisingly, instead of ending her life, Wilder saw potential in Risico to aid him in his sinister plans. Thus, he kept her alive and brought her along as he embarked on a journey eastward, passing through Prescott, Arizona, Joplin, Missouri, and Chicago, Illinois. He and Risico went to Merrillville, Indiana on April 10th, where she helped him abduct 16-year-old Dawnette Sue Wilt at the South Lake Mall. Wilder raped Wilt several times as Risico drove to New York. Near Penn Yan, Wilder took Wilt into the woods and attempted to suffocate her before stabbing her twice and leaving her. But miraculously, Dawnette survived and managed to drag herself toward the highway. She was picked up and taken to a nearby hospital, where she was able to give police more information about her attacker. Wilder's final victim was 33-year-old Beth Dodge. Wilder abducted Dodge near Victor, New York, where he fatally shot her and dumped her body in a gravel pit. He then drove to Boston Logan Airport. There he bought Tina Marie Risico a flight to Los Angeles. So why did he let her go? That's still a big mystery even now. On April 13th, 2 state troopers spotted Christopher Wilder at a gas station in Colebrook, New Hampshire. They rushed towards him, but Wilder jumped into his car and grabbed a powerful .357 Magnum. As they grappled with him, chaos erupted, and 2 shots rang out. One bullet hit Wilder and accidentally struck one of the officers. The other shot pierced through Wilder's chest, ending his life right then and there. This got people questioning if he pulled the trigger by mistake, or was it a choice to put an end to his terrifying spree? It's a question that hangs heavy in the air. When Christopher's brother Stephen heard the news of his death, he admitted feeling a mix of emotions. "I breathed a sigh of relief," he confessed, knowing his brother could no longer hurt anyone. But with Christopher gone, justice for his victims seemed to slip through our fingers, leaving us with more questions than answers. The disappearance of Teresa and Elizabeth adds another layer of mystery to an already puzzling tale. Their fate remains a mystery, leaving us wondering what really happened to them. And then there are the other cases, the ones we may never know about, forever lost in the shadows. It's a sad thought, knowing that some stories may never see the light of day. Another incident tied to Wilder involved Marianne Schmidt and Christine Sherrick, both 15 years old, who were murdered at Wanda Beach in 1965. Although the case remains unsolved, there are connections to Christopher Wilder, adding mystery to the story. Think about all those bright young women who fell into Christopher's trap. They had dreams of becoming supermodels, but instead they became victims of his cruel game. It's a stark reminder of the dangers lurking out there, waiting to pounce when we least expect it. Share your thoughts below. That's it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to like the video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any more true crime videos. See you in the next video.